Based on what I've been seeing lately in terms of rain in San Francisco that led to flooding of the trays that I have outdoors doing hydroponics, it occurred to me to do an enhancement to the system, and this is really based on some of the original work of Dr. Kratky, who showed one system where the plants start out in kind of a deep water culture floating on the surface of a tray, and then as they use up the water, they fairly quickly settle on some rests at the side of the tray and then continue to work in the normal Kratky method. So this is a way to do that. I had this 1.5-inch ABS pipe laying around for another project, so I thought I would put it to work. Using ABS may bring up a question about whether or not this is safe to use. I have done some research about this and found that ABS is one of the most stable plastics out there, and it's used in medical equipment. By comparison, I have found that some references to the possibility that the PVC pipe that is so often used in systems may have some problems with leaching chemicals into the water. Now, I think a lot of people may be thinking that because PVC is used in water pipes in houses where people drink the water, that it's safe. That's not necessarily the case. It's just what they use because it's cheaper than copper. The thing that's going to make this work is that I have a hole in the bottom of the tray with a 3/8-inch grommet and a top hat grommet, and what I'm going to do is put a piece of 1/4-inch tubing up through there, which will serve the function of regulating the level of the nutrient solution. At the very beginning of putting plants in any particular tray, I'm going to have the water level at a point which just contacts the bottom of the net pots, and then as time goes on, I'll reduce it to, let's say, a level of about 1/2 inch or so. And this thing will function as a drain so that any surplus solution or water that comes in will go out the drain. This also provides me with feedback in the sense that as the plantings are currently configured, I have to lift the top of the tray and guess at the water level. So this will give me control over that. So and this is what the top hat grommet looks like with a piece of hose in it. It sticks out the bottom. That bottom could have an L on it and maybe some more hose in order to provide a way to drip into a container and catch the surplus. So here's the way the trays are currently set up. The plastic board, which I got from Tap Plastics for $10 for a 2-foot by 4-foot piece, was cut to just lay on the edges of the trays, and now I'm going to cut it down so that it fits inside the trays and lays on those 1.5-inch ID ABS tubes. Notice the kale growing in these. This kale was actually bought from a nursery as a 6-pack, and I just kind of used some shade cloth and a little bit of manipulation to shove these plants into a 2-inch net cup and then set them in this hydroponic system. I suppose a purist would not do that for fear of getting some kind of soil-borne disease into the system. There's some merit to that, but I'd also point out that healthy plants don't get sick. And what makes a healthy plant is good nutrition, and that's what you get from a well-constructed hydroponic mixture. Also, I've mentioned in previous videos that I put some antimicrobial herbs into my solution in the hopes that it will help keep down disease. I also want to mention that these were probably picked up in somewhere around Thanksgiving of 2018. These have been outside ever since then in San Francisco, where the nights typically get down to around 40 and days will get 50 or 60. The growing area for these is in between 2 houses, so I suspect that we get a little bit of thermal gain from those houses as well. After I cut down the board to size and laid it on top of the ABS tubes, I realized that that approach wasn't going to work in terms of interference with the holes for the plants. And I had just seen a video from Dr. Kratky where he had used the net pot upside down in order to support some styrofoam that he was using. So that's going to be the solution here. As you can see that I've set 5 net pots, 2-inch net pots, in the corners and sort of in the middle, away from the center hole. This and the material that goes on top is 3/16 of an inch, so that's about how much gap there will be at the bottom. If you used thicker material, you could get a bigger gap. I've looked around my local, I've looked around for a styrofoam board and things, and I don't seem to be able to find what I want. I guess people are using insulation board or something like that. I don't have any need for a full 4x8 sheet right now, so I'm not doing that. Although I think in an upcoming installation that I'm designing, where I'm going to put these things into a 1 foot by 8 foot flood tray, maybe at that point I'll look into getting something thicker to use for this. Just want to mention that you can buy 2-inch net pots in bulk for about 12 cents each. So if you figure $2.50 for a good strong tray, another 50 cents for the net pots, $2.50 for the top. So that's about $5 setup to get this thing, which will grow quite a bit of stuff and last quite a while. So using my caliper, I decided to set the water depth at the drain end at 4/10 of an inch. I think that'll be plenty. It's pretty easy to top this up. You can just go out every day and run a little water or solution over the top of this thing, and when you see it drip out, you know you're full. You do have to make sure that this is level so that all the plants get a reasonable amount of food. And here's the whole thing reassembled. Looks pretty much the same, but it works a little bit differently, and I think better in some minor but perhaps useful ways.